What is shutter speed? How does it affect your photos? And how can you use shutter speed differently when taking photos? All of that in today's video. What's going on, guys? My name is cody.majeres. I'm a content coordinator by day, content creator at night, and I make videos to help you master your content. In today's video, we're gonna be taking a look at shutter speed, what it is, and how you can use it to help fully understand how to properly expose photos. This video is one of 3 videos that I'm releasing on the exposure triangle, so make sure to check out the other 2 videos on aperture and ISO so you get a well-rounded knowledge of exposure. But for today's video, we're going to be focusing on shutter speed. So what is shutter speed? Shutter speed is how long the shutter stays open during an image when you push the button. The longer a shutter is open, the more light it's letting in to help expose your photo. So when you're setting your shutter speed, you're telling the camera how long to keep the shutter open. Shutter speed is measured in seconds and fractions of a second. For example, your camera might show shutter speed as 1/250, or it might just show 250. No matter if it shows the fraction version or just the 250 version, that measurement is still 1/250th of a second, and that's how fast your shutter speed is. What that means is when you push the shutter button, your shutter stays open for 1/250th of a second. Now, once you start getting down into slower shutter speeds, it's going to start showing up in second format. And what this looks like on camera is 1 inch. And what I mean by that is it's gonna show up on the camera as 1''''. So if you're unsure what your shutter speed is and you start seeing apostrophes in that value, just know that you're at a super slow shutter speed that's going to require a tripod and low light situations, otherwise you're just gonna get a white image. So in order to effectively use shutter speed, it's going to be a good idea to know how to change shutter speed. So let's hop over to the camera and I'll show you how you can change your shutter speed. All right, guys, so here we are on the camera. I'll show you how to set your shutter speed and be able to tell what your shutter speed is at. What you want is your live shooting view on your screen, and if you don't have this up or it's not showing up, it's different on every camera, but for me, I have to hit this button right up there and it gives me my live shooting view. And from there, you're gonna wanna look at these numbers down on the bottom. Now, if these numbers are not there, you're gonna wanna hit the info button a few times. It'll cycle through a couple different views for you, but you just want one that has those numbers along the bottom. These numbers from left to right on mine, the 40 is going to be the shutter speed. That might be showing up as 1/40 for you, depending on your camera. The next value over, this is going to be a decimal point number more than likely. Mine's 3.5, that's my aperture. And then over here where it says ISO, that's going to be the ISO. So in this video, we're just focusing on the shutter speed, which is the 40. Now there's a couple different ways you can change the shutter speed. The most common and easiest is to use the shutter wheel that's at the top. This is always going to be right near the shutter button so that it makes it easy for you to adjust the shutter speed. Now you'll notice this number down here as I scroll through that wheel changes the value of my shutter speed. And if I were to go down to 1 second or half of a second, you'll see that it shows up as what I said looked like 1 inch. This is your longer shutter speeds, and as you can see, my image is becoming completely whited out because the shutter would be open for way too long for this bright of a room. Now, if for some reason you don't want to use the shutter speed wheel, or maybe yours is broken, you can still change your shutter speed another way. I have a touchscreen monitor, so if you have one of these, it's as easy as touching the shutter speed number and just being able to manually change it. But if yours is not touchscreen, I'm sure that you're able to get to it with your buttons and wheels on the back of your camera to change it. Alright guys, so the last thing that I want to touch on with shutter speed is just a few different scenarios on when you would use both slow and fast shutter speeds. Fast shutter speeds are really good for capturing a single moment in time. Think of a water droplet falling into a puddle. If you're wanting to freeze the moment that that droplet hits the puddle of water and makes that splash, you're going to need a high shutter speed. What you're going to end up with is a photo of a drop mid-splash that's going to look really cool. Now on the other end of the spectrum, if you use a really slow shutter speed with water, you can show motion. If you've ever seen waterfall images before, a lot of the times the water will look super smooth and stringy. Using a slow shutter speed is going to allow you to take a photo over the course of 5 or 10 seconds, and while all of that water is flowing off the cliff, it's taking in the image, and at the end of that image you're going to get one smooth waterfall looking photo. Now most of the time with slower shutter speeds you're going to need at least a tripod and sometimes a neutral density filter so that your exposure is not completely blown out. Those are just a few ways you can use higher and slower shutter speeds. But if you just play around with different shutter speeds, you'll be able to find that you can do some really cool things and you can really start to manipulate your photos and get really creative compositions. That's all I have for this video, guys. Like I said, there's 2 other videos in this series that I'll link up here. Please go watch those so that you can get an understanding of the exposure triangle and really start to nail those photos that you're taking. I hope the information in this video was able to help at least some of you learn more about shutter speed. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up below, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. That's all I got for you guys on this one. Peace!